Oh boy, I've been dreading this day. The day that I would have to rank all of the other Mario Party boards. In my first video when I said, and the main reason, I don't want to suffer. I was being serious. I never wanted to suffer through the bad Mario Party games. Well, that's going to change. And yeah, all of these are terrible. So much so that every single one of the boards from Mario Party 9, 10, and the 3DS games are ranked below all the other ones. I'm not kidding. Anyway, let's get this over with.
You suck, you jackass!
Mario Party the top 100 is the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life. Okay, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I still hate it. Not only is it just a bad compilation of 100 minigames, it only has one board, and it is the sorriest excuse for a board I've ever seen. Okay, so even though the minigames are all from the older games, the board takes all of its mechanics from Star Rush. As you'll see later on, I hate that game as well. But the main takeaway is that it's an open space, and you can move to any grid you like. Also, everybody moves at the same time, which may seem like a time saver, but it's really not. Everybody still has to watch the cutscene for their space they landed on individually. And on top of that, everybody's trying to get the stars. But if two people get it at the same time, just give it to whoever was closer first. So there's no strategy in the slightest. You just hope you get good enough rolls to get the star. And it's not like there's any reason to go anywhere besides where the star is, because there's just nothing. There's some item spaces placed around and a minigame balloon appears sometimes. That's it. There's nothing else. This board is one of the biggest wastes of time I've ever seen. I didn't even bother finishing a game of this. I finished every other board on this list, and this is the one where I drew the line. Top 100's board is the worst experience I've ever had playing Mario Party, and I mean that. Fuck this game. I'm really glad they actually decided to revisit the older games and make it good after this abomination.
Yeah! Going to the moon! Moon ride! Moon ride! Moon ride!
Rocket Road from Island 2 is such a nothing board. It's what, like 20 spaces long, and the goal is just to get to the end first? They try to add strategy with these booster things that multiply your roll based on how many you use, up to 4. And on top of that, the 6 is replaced with a 0. So all you need to do is win one minigame, use all your boosters, and as long as you don't get a 0, you win. What a waste of time.
You might call me a pussy, but I won't hear you in my safe space. My safe space.
Bonsai Bill's Mad Mountain from Island 2 is very similar to Rocket Road. The board is only like 20 spaces long, and the goal is to get to the end first. This is just one of those clickbait Mario Party titles. Mario Party, but if you roll a 6, you die. So yeah, just like in Rocket Road, there's no 6. But instead of it being a 0, it unleashes a Bonsai Bill that will send anyone it hits back to start or the halfway point depending on where you are. The only way to avoid the Bonsai Bill is to hide in these safe spaces. This is another board where it's just all luck, even though the game pretends the safe spaces are a good bit of strategy when they're not. This is just another waste of time where it either takes 5 seconds to finish or it takes forever. Terrible.
I know, but what good is being player 1 now? We're just gonna die in this lava!
Here we get the worst board with the car, Magma Mine from 9. Starting off, yeah, the car mechanic is terrible. I bet you've never heard that one before. I don't understand what it's trying to be. All the dialogue acts like we're working together to defeat all the bosses, but it's not actually that, we're just competing for mini-stars, which you can only get by passing mini-star spots on the board when you are in control of the car. But you can't control where you take control of the car, so what's even the point? What happens to you isn't determined by the moves you make, or even the moves that the other players make. It's determined by the rolls that everybody else has. But you've already heard all of that before. What about Magma Mine itself? What the fuck do you think? Okay, so it starts out just as boring as every other cardboard, with this dumb wheel thing that chooses which way you go. Gee, I hope that doesn't come back later and make the board even worse. And there's a captain event that is just dumb, like every other captain event. Just hope you don't fall off and lose your mini-stars. That's it. Then after you beat the first boss, oh no, the magma is rising. It rises 2 spaces every turn, and if it hits you, you lose half of your mini-stars. Did it really need to be half? Like, that is such a huge punishment for something that is 99% luck-based. That's already bad enough. But I guess the devs just decided it would be funny to spam all these spaces that make it rise even more. Especially towards the end, like, are there enough magma rising spaces here? I don't think there are. This paired with not being able to control where you take control of the car, along with the direction wheel thing taking away the one thing someone could control with the car, just makes a miserable experience. There are a ton of instances where if you don't roll a certain number, you're just screwed. And that's terrible design. And after you escape the lava, it just reverts back to the same old boring gameplay as the beginning, as if nothing happened. Now it's just a straight line with Bowser spaces everywhere. Wow. Magma Mine did a horrible job at justifying the car mechanic, and it's an awful experience.
Stepping on the beat. Stepping on the beat.
Blooper Beach from 9 is just a slog. First, you're trying to catch a dolphin and, like, run away from a shark or something. I don't know, I was just watching my cat play with my wrist strap. Then you get to this really annoying part where the question mark spaces turn every mini star into a mini star. Yes, that's really what they call them. But, like, what's the point of that? Either everyone gets mini stars or loses them, so it's not even trying to change up the standings. The captain event is also really boring and dumb, because everyone has their own path, but all of them are the exact same except for the captains. So you're just watching the exact same thing happens 4 times in a row. It can also just ruin the entire game if you get unlucky with how big the gap in the mini stars can get, and that's never fun. Also, there's 2 of them on this board, and that makes it even worse. Then on top of that, there are 2 points where if you land on certain spaces, you get stuck in an infinite loop, and it's really hard to get out. That's even worse with this dumb car because the longer you're stuck, the longer the game goes on for. This board has so many different elements that don't work together well at all, and is just dragged down by so many inconveniences.
Boo! Haunted house.
Boo's Horror Castle, also from 9, is also a slog. The main gimmick with this one is that boos chase you, and you lose half of your... Are you fucking kidding me? Could they really not decide any other punishment in this game besides losing half of your mini stars? There are also these light rooms that act as a safe space from the boos. They aren't even safe because they take longer to get through than the normal path. So by the time you get out of the room, the boo is already there. Then after you escape that, you get yet another terrible captain event. If you couldn't tell by now, I really hate the captain events in this game. They are all so luck-based and can have big implications of the game, as was the case with Blooper Beach's captain event. In this one, you catch a rat. Whoever is the one to do so gets all the stars. Cool, what a waste of time. The captain barely even does anything here. Well, what was the point of that? Then you enter this loop where the boos are still chasing you, and the end gate is blocked by a wall where if you don't roll high enough number when you get to it, you go around again. This isn't as bad as the end of Blooper Beach, but it still isn't fun in the slightest. It's just another case of being way too short and worthless, or way too long and just being a bore. There's no in between. Overall, Mario Party 9 sucks. I can't believe that people actually think 8 is worse.
Instead of coins, you collect mini stars by winning mini games.
Star-Crossed Skyway from Island Tour. I don't even know. I'm running out of things to say about these boards. I guess they decided that a race wasn't good enough because they added mini stars. But you still just race to get the mini stars. So there's no strategy and no reason to play the board. But sometimes the first person to get to the end of the section loses the most stars. Wow, what a game changer, that makes it even worse. There are also spaces that switch the order of the amounts of stars you get, but there's only one that shifts it by 1, and one where the player who lands on it gets to rearrange the entire order. This slight amount of time gives me the slight amount of hope that the board has some strategy to it, but it doesn't. The only thing that's somewhat safe to this board is those rearrangement spaces. That's it, just avoid this one.
Oh no.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't have it in me to rank the Star Rush boards separately. They're all so boring and uninteresting that they just blend in with each other. Oh yeah, I'm only counting the worlds, not each individual level, because the only difference is the layout. But the layout doesn't matter in the slightest, because why would you go anywhere besides where the star is? These are definitely better than the top 100, because there's at least some things, like the allies and some gimmicks. Anyway, the order is as follows. The worst one is World 2. The gate things are just annoying and make it not fun in the slightest. Next is World 0. It's almost as bland as top 100, and that's no good. World 1 is still very boring, but it's a little better than 0. I have no idea why we needed both of these. Up next, the cake one, World 3. It's a cake, that's it. And finally, World 4 has a pretty unique lava rising gimmick that you can strategize around, so it's the best. The biggest problem with Star Rush's boards is that there's just nothing to do. The concept of a fully open board is really cool, but why did they do that if they didn't even bother to add anything of interest throughout? I was thinking before I made this list that Star Rush would be better compared to the other ones on this list, but they were just way too boring.
Mario! How dare you disturb my family vacation?
Bowser Station is the last major board in 9. and it is way more generous than the other ones for some reason. I mean, that makes it better than the other Mario Party 9 boards I've talked about so far, but it's still Mario Party 9. See, the main gimmick isn't just make everyone lose all of their stars because it's funny. There's a jackpot machine in the middle, and spaces that add many stars to it. There are also a couple of jackpot spaces on the board that give you all of the mini stars. Also, when the jackpot rises to 20 mini stars, a minigame is played to see who gets the majority of the jackpot. A Mario Party 9 board that kind of relies on skill? Never thought I'd see the day. However, the thing that drags this board down is definitely the captain events. As if it wasn't enough to have 1 or 2 terrible captain events per board, Bowser Station has 3. The first one is pretty much just give free mini stars to the captain, and give the crumbs to everyone else. This bingo one will either give someone a huge mini star advantage or make someone lose a ton of them. And the rocket one is just a waste of time. If it wasn't for the captain events, I could see this one being the best of the worst. Good thing I'm not counting boss battles towards the ranking, because the Bowser and Bowser Jr. bosses suck.
Country toads, take me home to the place I belong.
Toad Road from 9 was our first look into what the new style of gameplay would bring. Nothing. It brings fucking nothing. It does a really bad job at trying to introduce the car. Like at first, okay, even though all the players are riding together, they're still competing. But then you get to a broken bridge, and wait, we're trying to work together now? I don't understand. Why does the board have this one point where the players have to work together? Even though it doesn't matter because it's decided by dice rolls, because of course it is. If you make it across, you get a path filled with mini star spaces. And if you don't, you get a path filled with mini star spaces. Just like with Blooper Beach, it's just pointless and doesn't mean anything by the end of the game. There is thankfully only one captain event, and it's better than the other captain events, but not by a lot. The rest of the board is just bland and boring, but compared to a lot of these other boards, that's a miracle.
Insulting a man's ship be worse than insulting his mother.
No, wait, it was his mother you said was dirty, not his ship.
I can't believe it. I actually liked Mario Party 10's boards better than the majority of Mario Party 9's. Have I gone mad? Yeah, probably. Anyway, Airship Central still isn't very good. The beginning with the different ships switching every turn is really annoying, but it's at least a neat idea. Then you get to the part where an airship shoots at 2 different spaces, and if you get hit, you lose half your mini stars. Where have I heard that one before? This section doesn't last that long, and it leads into one of the best ideas the car gameplay has ever had, which I know isn't saying much, especially after this same board didn't have anything that fun, but still. The part where you actually fight the airship by landing on attack spaces and avoiding unlucky spaces that will have the ship fire back at you is a really cool idea. It's definitely not anywhere near good, but that one cool idea is enough to be better than a bunch of boards that were just bad ideas and boring execution. Also, this goes for every Mario Party 10 board, but the lack of any captain events really helps. All they really did was make the game go on for longer and make everything you worked for meaningless. Also, the pacing in this game is much better than 9's, so at least it doesn't feel like you're wasting hours of your life, with the Toad explaining every single thing, even though you can already tell what everything is just by looking at it. And every time you get mini stars, you have to wait for your character to go, Yahoo! And you still have to watch the counter go up and, oh my god, I hate these games, please let me be done already.
Bombs? You want it? It's yours, my friend, as long as you have enough rubies.
But Bomb Factory from 9 isn't the worst thing ever. What a shock. The beginning has a conveyor belt gimmick that is kind of neat, the middle section of switching lanes is kind of cool, and the bomb is one of the better hazards since the players can kind of control who gets hit by it. After the bomb drops, once the car moves 10 spaces, the captain at the time will lose half their mini stars. This gives one of the only times where your alternate dice blocks can actually mean something, other than getting out of the shitty scenario that the randomness of the game put you in. It provides the slightest bit of strategy. The captain event is also the least painful captain event in the entire game. Don't get me wrong, the board is still bad, but there are some hints of a good board here.
His name isn't Chaos. It's Chaos.
Chaos Castle from 10 is another one that almost seems like it's a decent board. While there are many hazards, none of them are devastating enough to be that terrible. Even if you do get hit by one, you still feel like you're in the game. Even though this is Mario Party 10, so you're not. The Toad being locked in the cage is a neat idea, and it's a nice twist on Bowser being in a cage throughout the rest of the game's boards. There's also parts where you have to time a jump across the lava. Holy crap, there's actually something skill-based in one of these boards. That is, until the very end, when one of the worst hazards of the car comes up. Bowser shoots fire every turn, there's barely any safe spots, and you lose half your mini stars when you get hit. That section doesn't last that long though, so it's not the worst thing ever, but it does sour what could have been the best of the worst boards.
Dad, when do we get to the ride?
This is the ride! Yippee!
Seriously, I'm running out of things to say about these boards. Mushroom Park from 10 is still a bad board, but slightly better than the previous boards. There's not really any annoying hazards aside from the usual car bullshit. The theme park aesthetic is cute. Some of the lucky spaces let you ride some of the rides, and it's cute. What do you want me to say? The better pacing of Mario Party 10 makes it better than Toad Road and the Bomb Factory. Mario Party 9 sports were a slog to get through, and while 10 fundamentally isn't any better, the fact is its faster pace makes it slightly better to me. Also, there's no captain events in 10. Fuck captain events.
Wow, Green Shy Guy. And you knew it was going to be Green Shy Guy because it's always been Green Shy Guy. That was destroyed.
Incredible stuff, man.
Oh my god, a board that has different structure, finally! Shy Guy's Shuffle City from Island Tour is the only Mario Party board where you can't have CPUs. I'm not really sure why, it seems like it would work fine with CPUs, but whatever. I guess I'll have to compromise. Anyway, the board isn't that good. Shocker. The idea of having cards and stealing one every turn and having someone be stuck with a Bowser card is a cool idea, but let me reiterate, a good idea does not equal a good board. First of all, it's really short. We're already off to a bad start. So everyone is given 3 cards with 1 Bowser card thrown in the shuffle. At the beginning of everyone's turn, they draw 1 card from the next person's pile, and then use the card to move. Whoever has the Bowser card after 3 turns will get a minor penalty that doesn't mean much. The holder of the Bowser card also can't win, which is pretty dumb since you can't really control if you have it or not. I mean, you can try to shuffle around your cards before one gets taken, but it's random either way. What's the point? Also, just in case you didn't think there were enough bad mechanics, if you make it to the end, it's luck based if you even win or not. Way to take an almost decent board and just ruin it. Seriously, why bother trying to add strategy with using the right cards at the right time when you're just going to make it meaningless by the end? Either way, Shy Guy's Shuffle City at least stands out by having a unique gimmick.
But at least it's warm around the fire.
Hey, if we're underwater, how could there be a...
Oh boy, we're back to the car, my favorite. Whimsical Waters from 10 doesn't have any terrible gimmicks. What is this, a good Mario Party? No, not at all, but compared to the previous boards it sure feels like it. There's no bullshit, get the specific number of fuck you moments here. It's just a kind of boring tour under the sea. The Dragon Eel is also a neat gimmick, having a bunch of different chests with different prizes including 1 jackpot. Once the jackpot is collected, the prize is reset. This isn't the best gimmick by any means, but once again, it sure as hell feels like it compared to what I've been through. Even the loop thing at the end isn't terrible. If you fail going around the first time, you're guaranteed to go through the second time around. Again, I don't like this board, but it has some actually decent design. I still hate cars though.
Boo. Haunted
Trail. You know, I never thought I would be saying Haunted Trail from 10 was one of the best boards that has the car gimmick, but here we are. At first you go through this board expecting the same old car crap, and then you see a Boo and get war flashbacks to Boo's Horror Castle. And when you pass it, wait, it's actually a decent hazard? The Boo attaches to the one person who passed it, and will take 5 mini stars every time that player rolls. However, there are Boo spaces on the board that will switch the Boo to someone else. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I actually kind of like this gimmick. Once again, it's not like the best thing ever, but compared to all the other gimmicks the car gameplay had to offer, this is easily my favorite. Other than that one thing, this is just your generic car gameplay, which I don't like on a fundamental level. But Haunted Trail impressed me, I'm not gonna lie.
It's dangerous to go alone, take this.
Perilous Palace Path from Island Tour. This board is pretty linear and generic and not very good. It's just a race to the end. There's only one thing that makes this better than the previous ones, and that's because the minigames actually matter. Depending on how you place in each minigame, you get to roll a better dice block. There's even some BS items to use, and while they aren't balanced well at all, I'll take it over those special dice blocks with the car any day. The Bowser Zone also isn't a fun mechanic, but at least it's something that can be avoided by each individual player. There's also the ending segment where you have to roll high enough to defeat a thwomp, and I've always hated these kind of things. The reward for getting to the end first shouldn't be a chance to even happen. So yeah, the board still sucks, but I'd much rather play it over the previous ones.
This is for the losers. Sing it all night long. We're the losers. There's nothing wrong with being losers.
Bowser's Peculiar Peak from Island Tour. It's the same thing as Perilous Palace Path, but this time the person who gets to the end loses. There's also no items or Bowser Zone, which makes the board feel pretty skill-based, even though it's not at all. The minigames mattering also applies here, but the higher you place, the smaller dice block you get to roll. I also kind of like the ending challenge thing on this board. If you roll a 4 or higher, that's when you lose. However, if you don't, you get to stay alive longer, and the dice you earn in the minigame applies to the challenge. So if you keep winning minigames, you have a much better chance of not losing, and could have someone else be the loser. Those nice qualities aren't enough to make it, well, good, since it's still just linear racing BS. But compared to everything prior, it's top tier. DK's Jungle Ruins from 9 is the best use of the car, and all they had to do was replace the mini-stars with bananas. Okay, not really, but it's still the best cardboard. No, that's not really saying much, but still. DK's Jungle Ruins is a giant circle with bananas or rotten bananas on every space. The fact that every space has them already makes it better than the other cardboard, since your rolls and what happens aren't entirely based on the other players. The captain event is definitely the best captain event as well. Again, that's not saying much, but I don't care. Honestly, that's all I really have to say about this board. I just want this to be over. I want to experience the joy of Wario's Battle Canyon again.
I can't show you the world. Shit. Shining, shivering slag mess.
I'm gonna jump.
Kamek's Carpet Ride from Island Tour is the best at being the worst. Or I guess technically it's the worst at being the worst, since being the best at being the worst would be like the worst. But whatever. It's the light at the end of the tunnel, and Kamek's Carpet Ride was Eddie Cube's cream of the crop before they made an actually decent Mario Party game. Anyway, this takes the card gimmick from Shy Guy Shuffle City, and gets rid of the BS ending and the Bowser cards. This is the only board where I can say the linear structure actually works to its benefit. It's all about strategizing when to use your cards, because to win, you need to land on the last space exactly. So you have to use your cards properly and win minigames to get the cards you need. This is the most skill-based board out of all of these, and it's not even close. It's only like 20 spaces though, so it's still not as good as, well, the good Mario Party boards. Congratulations, Kamek's Carpet Ride. You get the honor of being the best of the worst. This was painful. I've always heard people saying that these games are terrible, but I still wasn't prepared for the torture I was about to put myself through. The only bit of joy I felt was during some of the minigames. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to playing Wario's Battle Canyon. I've been in the mood to play a good Mario Party board.
Soup